Hello there again, chess fans. This is Master Ingvar Jóhannesson and episode 4, the Queen's Gambit. Now we are in Mexico City, international tournament. It's time to play. However, the first scene that we see is in the hotel room. We saw this position on her board, and at first I didn't think much of it, but then it turns out it's probably a so-called chess study. It looked like she was just analyzing an endgame, but there's only one clear solution. Bishop d4 check, king f1 is the main line. If the king goes to h1, there's queen e4 check, and well, the bishop covers g1 nicely and the queen on the diagonal. Black interposes, we give a check, and then bishop e5, and black will lose the queen. So you have the king h3, queen e3 check. So king f1 is the main line, but now another nice solution, queen d1, queen e2, and then after queen e4, black is in zugzwang. Beautiful solution. So I suspect that this is a so-called chess study. To clarify, a study is a composed position which usually has a pretty nice solution, usually a unique solution as well. But on to the first round, Marenko. And well, we didn't see the game, but we see the final position. She said she had the king in a mating net, and we see that over there. White can't defend, the queen will mate on b2. But then another finish which I didn't think much of. She played d7. It turns out this is from a game between Bobby Fischer and Bent Larsen. Bobby actually played bishop takes f6 in his game, but d7 as played by Beth is also quite good. The next chess position we get is actually from a game by none other than Garry Kasparov. He had white and he sacrificed his knight here in a Sicilian position. Big threats, the king has to come out, and then queen d3, a very nice move, threatening to penetrate and give checkmate. King takes on e6. Now if he does that, we can take on d5 and play queen g6. This did not happen in the game. Queen takes f6 would win the queen. So in the game, Van Velde played bishop g7, but Kasparov played queen f5, then took on d5 and played rook e7, and this was the final position. But in Beth's game, she plays queen f7, but it's actually black to move in the final position when he resigned, but the easy queen f7 takes g7 was what we saw in Beth's game, the queen here on f7. The next game we see Beth play is also based on a Kasparov game, this time Kasparov with black against Vishy Anand, who later became world champion as well. And indeed, after rook b8, Anand did resign. I don't think either of these games, Kasparov Van Velde or Anand Kasparov, had any historic significant importance, but they were played in a tournament in which Kasparov won, sort of at the height of his powers. The Queen's Gambit that we do see play out now, however, does have significant importance because it's one of the most famous examples of a back rank mate. This game was played by Capablanca, and the position we are about to see happens in Beth's game. After d takes e4, that's indeed the position on the board. And the actual game where Capablanca had black against Bernstein played out like this. Capablanca eventually baited white into winning the pawn on c3. After some knight jumps, the knight goes to b5 and then takes the pawn. But this was a trap by the great Capablanca. He took on c3 and played the legendary queen to b2. And the back rank is simply too weak, and the threat of taking the rook and taking the queen is simply too much for white to handle along with the back rank. So a nice historic win by Capablanca. So very nice wins by Harmon, but now we see a more sober position in the game of Borgov. And yeah, just a normal position, nothing really too much to say about it. And then we have this little match here, which was quite funny. We see this game against the young Russian Girev open up as a Sicilian. We see this position on the board. Now, in my experience, if you see a young Russian, this young, playing this good, I mean, he's won a bunch of games, so apparently he's quite good. Run for the hills. These Russians will be good. But okay, he makes it to an endgame here, and eventually he suggests that they adjourn. This means that Beth must now seal her next move, and they will continue the game at another hour. I think in this case 10 o'clock in the morning. When they resume, the arbiter plays the move that she sealed, pawn to h5. It can be added that this was based on an actual Grandmaster game, Yakovenko against Stelwagen. But then we get this final position on the demonstration board, and it could have played out like this. The a pawn is simply too strong. Let's say bishop takes b6, rook takes, and then pawn to a7. So the distraction tactics seem to have worked. She pulled out all the stops to distract poor little Kirov right there. We then walk past a nice final position, a checkmate in Borgov's game, as Harmon looks on, but now she must prepare for the big showdown. Borgov against Harmon. Before the game, however, we have a scene where Matt and Mike explain that Borgov's assistants, or seconds, are indeed the world number 2 and 3, which is quite, well, accurate probably for the times, and also they're a KGB agent, and this is to make sure he doesn't defect, as people would do at the time. Famous example, Viktor Korchnoi, who fled from the USSR. But now we get the final showdown in Mexico City, and Borgov opens with pawn to e4, and we have the Sicilian defense. We see bishop e5, the Rossolimo. This was played in the recent World Championship match between Caruana and Carlsen. And we actually follow a match here, and this is a historical match, based on a real game, and this was between Stein and Matanovic, Yugoslavian grandmaster at the time. Of course, Yugoslavia is no more. But yeah, this game definitely followed this particular game, a game where White displayed pretty good attacking abilities and good technical play. And well, that seems to fit the bill with Borgov, and he turned out to be simply too strong for Beth Harmon, at least this time around. And we see the final position coming up here, rook c7 and then queen f3, and she hands in the towel. So yeah, that was episode 4. In my opinion, another good episode with plenty of, well, Easter eggs, isn't that what they call it for us chess players? And I hope you enjoyed my investigations and explanations, and well, why not throw a like or even a sub if you haven't already, and I hope to see you in a future video. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.